All right. Good morning, everyone. My name is dcharley, and I am the president of Alpine Brokerage. On the call today, I have with me our vice president of life sales, Josh Lipson. And today we're really going to talk about cross-selling life insurance for property and casualty agents. So we've developed this series of educational webinars called The Secret Sauce. And this is the first volume of that webinar. And we think it's really going to be beneficial for those of you out there that may have a property and casualty license and are interested in cross-selling life insurance to your book. And this kind of takes you through the nuts and bolts of how to do that and how to get started from a high level. So, I was born in 1980, and I'm, for the most part, the last generation that grew up at least part of the way without the internet. And I remember going to the bookstore, and there was a rack of what they call Cliff Notes back in the day before there was an internet. And the Cliff Notes were, you got an assignment for a book that you needed to read at school, and you waited till the last week to crack it open, and all of a sudden you cracked it open, and you're like, oh man, I'm never going to get through this. So you had your mom rush you to the bookstore to grab the Cliff Notes version of it, and you quickly read through that. And if you remember, the cover was yellow and black. And when we created the secret sauce, we kind of went into that same theme of the Cliff Notes. So think of this presentation as the Cliff Notes version of how to sell life insurance to property and casualty clients if you're a property and casualty agent. So with that, Josh, do you want to say hello for a minute? Say hello to everyone.
Hey, everybody. It's been, just a pleasure working with everybody at the team over at We, and we look forward to doing more. And
Awesome.
Everything. Yeah, go ahead.
Awesome. So let's just dive right in here to the opportunity. So what's the missed opportunity right now? So today, the P&C agent is easily attach life to their home and auto policies, and what this really boils down to is the missed opportunity is this. You as a property casualty agent, you already have the relationship with these clients. You have already spoken to them or quoted them home or auto. You may have sold them a home or auto, and that's protecting their personal items, their tangible assets. But the real missed opportunity is what happens if something happens to that individual. Yes, their home and their automobile is covered, but if they are sick or God forbid they die, the income that they were earning or to pay for those assets is now not there anymore. So, that's really the missed opportunity that most of our property and casualty agents see. And the great part about it is that you guys are already 50% there. What do I mean by that? Well, you already have the relationship. These people have trusted you enough to already give you maybe one, maybe two, maybe more lines of business. And so this is an ancillary product that you can offer them that, in my humble opinion, is maybe the most important piece of insurance that they own, because without their life or their health, none of those other things that you're insuring may not be around. So I think it's a real missed opportunity for the property and casualty agents. And, offering this, we here at Alpine Brokerage can make it very, very easy for you. And we're going to touch on that a little bit more in the presentation. So, as I said, for years, property and casualty agents have the relationship, but, there's a misconception out there that life insurance is this cumbersome process and that it creates a huge headache. And from what I've heard with talking with a number of property and casualty advisors is they don't want to risk maybe the other lines of business that they have with that individual by having a bad experience inside of the life insurance underwriting process maybe. So they view life insurance as a headache. They don't want to go down that road. And I think that, it's safe to say that the old adage that you're kind of fearful of the unknown. So if you don't know the process or it doesn't seem easy, then human nature says that you want to try to stay away from that because you don't want to be asked a question that you don't know the answer to. You don't want to look like a trusted someone that, is not trustworthy to your clients, because you might know property and casualty like the back of your hand, but they ask you one question about life insurance and automatically you're stumped. So again, we're here to make that process easy for you and take that headache away so that you can write these policies and deliver this service to your clients and make a stickier relationship for you and your clients. So again, uh, it's not a headache. The traditional history of it is that the carriers take a deep dive into your insurance, what I like to call the old way. Carriers are going to deep dive into your client's medical history. They're going to ask for a physical exam, a blood draw, and then you're going to wait for weeks or months for a decision in this black box that you don't know really what's going on. And then at the end of it, there's a possibility that the insurance company can come back and say, hey, you know what? Your client's declined. We don't really want this type of coverage. And then what? You either have to start all over again, or you have to deliver your client bad news after you just wrote them maybe a homeowner's policy or a auto policy and more than likely save them money. Now you have to go back and deliver bad news that they can't get the insurance. And that doesn't really either get your relationship off on the best foot or show an existing client that maybe you have the full repertoire of insurance products and services available to them. So again, some agents, not all, but some agents think that it's rarely worth the time of risking your client's goodwill or your goodwill and risking your client's time to go through this process. We are here to help you through that. And that's why personal lines agents really don't bother getting, the life insurance license at all. Now, some of you on this call I can see, because I've worked with you in the past, do have your life insurance license, and that's great because that makes the process that much easier. So here's the big wow moment. In 2017, 2018, I would say to you that yes, the technology wasn't there yet. The policies and the processes were cumbersome, and it was hard to activate a life insurance policy. But today, specifically driven by some of the transformations in the pandemic, technology has transformed the way that life insurance is being underwritten at the carrier level and how you can activate this policy. In the last 2 or 3 years, it has probably transformed more than it has in the last 10 or 15 years. So what do I mean by that? Well, now through Alpine Brokerage's website, our newly transformed website at abgelite.com, you can go in there and actually drop a ticket and apply for life insurance. Your client gets an email, they fill out some information, and that goes into the insurance company. And it's not 100% that they won't get an exam, but if your clients are healthy and they're not on a lot of medications and they don't have a health issue that's going to preclude them from insurance, most of the carriers are able to offer coverage up to, depending on the carrier, $1 million or $2 million of term insurance and sometimes permanent insurance with no physical exam whatsoever. So that's the technology that's transformed. Really, the big data has stepped in. Most of the carriers are ordering a prescription database, printout to see what kind of prescription medication the client is on. They're looking at a motor vehicle report. If you got 15 speeding tickets, you're probably taking risks that you maybe shouldn't be taking. So that gives a little window into your personality. And then there's something called a LexisNexis score that has a number of variables, but it's more of a lifestyle score that they score you that kind of shows if you're being a good boy or girl or not. So that's the technology that really is driven to give you the offers. And think about it. It's a symbiotic relationship between the carrier and you. You don't want to go through all those processes. Guess what? The carrier doesn't either. They have to pay someone to do all of that, to look at the medical records, to actually get the medical records. They have to pay to have the examiner come out. An exam costs the insurance company roughly about $100 every time they send the examiner out. So if they can use technology and get a good picture of your clients without doing all of that, then they're saving money as well. And that money ultimately trickles down, hopefully, to the clients and savings on premiums. What do you think about that, Josh?
I love it. I mean, the technology has revolutionized the way that we do business, and it's made it really easy to jump in and out and, stay focused on the core business, which is the property and casualty. So, a lot of this is enabling you to offer offer these services, but get it in on and off your desk quickly so you can stay focused on the core. And then always you're invariably going to be hit with well, I have a health issue, right? So what do you do? Well, if you're unfamiliar with the health issue, maybe you're new to life insurance, it could be as simple as hey, let me reach out to the underwriter. I know he's going to have a couple questions about your, whatever the health condition is, and then just call us, and we'll kind of get you through that health, condition, the information that we need to know to give a proper quote, and really give the client a proper expectation of what the experience will be, what the price will be, and if we can do that up front, it's just a better experience for you, the agent, and then also the client, which is ultimately what we're all after. So
yeah, great point. And that kind of leads into the next section of our presentation, is that misperceptions abound. It's a LIMRA study that consumers overestimate the cost of life insurance by more than 300%. You would be surprised, and we're going to go into our quoting tool here at the end of the presentation. You would be surprised what $1 million term on a 40-year-old actually costs per year. I would tell you that depending on what their cell phone plan is, they're probably paying more for their cell phone than they would be for this insurance. So, it doesn't hurt to quote. And if you're doing a homeowner's policy or an auto policy, and after you've bound it, it's just as easy to have someone in your office or yourself run a quick term quote for that individual and say, hey, I know we didn't really talk about this, but if something happens to you, how are you going to pay that car off? Or we've protected your house if there's a hurricane or wind damage or a storm damage or a flood. But what happens if something happens to you? How is that house going to be paid off? How is your family going to be able to stay in that house? And that's really where these misperceptions come in, where clients think, oh my God, well, this insurance is too much. Well, you'd be surprised. And I know a lot of agents, they have, a 40-year-old or a 35, a 40, and a 45-year-old, kind of those quotes saved, and they just send those out to their clients and say, hey, you'd be surprised what it costs. And if you want something really, I can run a quote for you on your particular situation and your particular age if you're interested. But you can see for a few dollars, you're going to get some coverage. Now, it may not be $1 million, maybe 250,000, but you would be surprised at how inefficient these policies are from a dollar standpoint. And more importantly, talking to the millennials, they have no idea. And this is probably the biggest marketplace that is untapped for individuals. And I know a lot of property and casualty agents talk to a younger market because, hey, they may get their first house or their first car or something, and they reach out to you and they say, I need this coverage. I haven't really had it before. I'm freshly out of college, or I just got my first job and now I'm kind of building my net worth. I need to cover some of these assets that I've purchased. These individuals overestimate the cost by 5 to 10 times, almost double what a normal person does. They have no idea. And on top of that, these individuals also want to do everything digitally. If they can't do it on their phone, they don't want to do it. So that's where the technology tied in with some basic education on what these things cost, you can deliver a lot of value to your clients in a very short period of time. So let's switch gears a second, because we know property and casualty agents get calls a lot about this word that's called mortgage protection insurance. And I actually have a little piece that we could send out to you after this. If you're interested, just ping Josh on it at jlipson at abgelite.com. And it's a grid that kind of compares mortgage protection insurance to a traditional term policy. Are they the same thing? No, they are not. Mortgage protection insurance is offered to home buyers. Anybody that's purchased a home, right after you move in, your mailbox is stuffed with letters saying that they want to offer you mortgage protection insurance. Well, what that does is it covers the bank. If something happens to you as the lien holder, it pays the bank, where a traditional term insurance policy pays you. The other thing is, when you have mortgage protection insurance, the bank has to be the beneficiary. You can't even list another beneficiary. With a term policy, after you pay the loan off or down the road, or if something changes, maybe you sell the house, you can change the beneficiary. The third thing that I've learned about mortgage protection insurance is it reduces over time. The amount of the benefit reduces over time in theory as you pay down your mortgage. But what happens if you take an equity line of credit out? It doesn't scale back up. With a traditional term insurance policy, these policies remain level across the entire term. That way, there's either A, additional coverage for you in the event that your mortgage balance is lower than the benefit, or B, if you take additional monies out of the house, which we all know values are up right now, unless you've been living under a rock for the last couple of years, we all know that property values are up. So there's a lot of equity being pulled out of properties right now. And what better way to ensure that than a level term policy? And by the way, level term policies can be for 10 years, they can be for 15 years, they can be for 20 years, and they can be for 30 years. In fact, not that we like to advertise it, there are companies out there that offer a 40-year term or something in between 20 and 30, like 21, 25, 28, 27. So it's very customizable to you. And if you have questions on those, feel free to contact Josh, again, at jlipson at abgelite.com. All right. So, Dan, this sounds wonderful, right? But how do I get started? What are the elevator questions that I ask to my clients to kind of get this ball rolling, because I don't know what to ask. So here's just 3 very basic questions that you can use as a conversation starter. If you need these, we have these in this whole presentation in a booklet format that we can forward to you to kind of give you a roadmap. But, simple one-liners like, do you foresee any family expenses in the next 10 to 20 years, such as college tuition? Do you have a plan for your significant other? How would you make the mortgage payments? If something unsuspected happened to you, would you want your family to remain in your home? Well, yeah, of course I would. Most people say, of course I would. Well, how are you going to do that? What's the plan? And guess what? They probably don't have one. The other question that's not on this that I would tell you that's a very simple way to generate life insurance is asking one simple question: do you own life insurance? Because the client is going to say one of 2 things. They're going to either say yes or they're going to say no. If they say no, then you could probably go into one of these 3 questions on the screen. If they say yes, then some of our property and casualty agents out there say, well, somebody's already gotten to them before me. Not necessarily true. I can tell you that there are a lot of individuals out there that have bought a term policy, and we may be able to do better. Maybe their health has changed. Maybe they want living benefits. So a good policy review goes a long way. So if they say yes, the next question is, when was the last time you've had this reviewed? And they probably are going to say never. And so after that, you tell them, well, as a service to you, one of the things that we do here in my office is that we review all of your in-force coverage, just like we reviewed your home and your auto policy to find value there. We can review your life insurance policy and tell you whether you're in the best place that you can be, or maybe you can get it a little bit cheaper, or maybe you can get a little bit more benefit for the same money that you're already paying, or maybe we can add living benefits. So if you get sick and don't die, you still get a payment out of the policy. All these are options for you, but I can't tell you where we're going to go. You have to bring me a statement and let me review. And once you get that statement, don't worry. You don't have to do anything after that. All you got to do is fire that over to Josh in our office. He's your point contact. He's going to do the analysis, and he's going to tell you, hey, we got something. We can do better. They're in the best place they can be. And if they are in the best place they can be, we will come back to you and tell you that. And then you go back to your client and say, hey, this is all good. You're in a great spot. And we're on to the next thing. By the way, note your file. And then there's an opportunity even to convert that policy down the road for that client. And now you've captured that information. And we can talk about conversion in another presentation. But in theory, what you're doing with all of these term policies is you're building a block of business that you can go back to and convert later on down the road when these individuals may have more money or they're older and they can't qualify for insurance again. And so the conversion options are guaranteed inside of the contract, and no underwriting, they can convert to a permanent policy. So another great way for you to create evergreen business inside of your firm, and not only that, deliver a tremendous value to your clients. All right. So we've talked about how to get the client to the table. Now let's talk about what the process is, right? Because we talked about it before. The old process was we got to take a paper app, we got to order a medical, we've got to get doctor's records. It takes 60 days. You have to update the client on what's going on. You may have to deliver bad news. Well, I'm here to tell you that process is, for the most part, completely revolutionized. So really, there are two paths to go down. The agent-assisted path. So basically, this is our online e-app platform in our base camp. Quick commercial for the Alpine Advisor Dashboard. We have trademarked it as Base Camp. All good journeys start at Base Camp. So this is a place where you can go and get ready for the journey of taking an application and bringing your clients through. So we think it's a great place to go. It's where you get ready, and there are lots of tools there. So you're going to go into Base Camp, and we're going to have a quick demo of that at the end of the presentation. You can run a term quote for them, and then you can apply right there. Send them a link, they can complete it, and depending on the carrier, sometimes they can get an offer literally in 20 minutes. And we'll kind of guide you through that as well and kind of show you that. Now, I will have a caveat here. If you're looking for a final expense policy, if you're looking for a child's policy, if you're looking for something with cash value, that is where you contact Josh at jlipson at abgelite.com, or give him a jingle. You can always call our main line at 800-888-2352. Let him know what you're looking for. I would say he would help you guide you to a few companies that are good in that situation. For example, we have carriers that are specific to final expense. We have carriers that are specific to child's policies. And then we have a few carriers that, we really like for cash value life insurance, whether it's whole life or universal life. So that's really, kind of tying into Base Camp. Josh, he's kind of your Sherpa up the mountain. After you've reached Base Camp, he's going to take you to the summit. And he's the guy that really is going to show you where to go with those specific needs so that you're not wasting a lot of time, because we do get questions. Hey, I'm on Base Camp. I'm in there running a quote. It's a $25,000 quote for a 70-year-old. I don't see anything. Well, that's because 70-year-olds, typically are not buying term insurance, and most term insurance companies are starting at $100,000 of death benefit. So when you put those search fields in, nothing shows up. It's not that we don't have anything. It's just what you're searching for doesn't fit that box on our quoting engine. So definitely give us a call. We're going to have some other trainings. They're going to talk about, those types of products as well. So the agent-assisted process, you're going to put that information in Base Camp. The client receives the email. They start the application process. The application is submitted to the carrier. And again, they use that big data to take a look at the client to see if there's an opportunity. Now, here's the best part. If the client doesn't fit through that streamlined process, it's not a go back to the beginning. I always used to play this game Sorry with my daughter, and if you get the sorry, you got to go back to the beginning and start all over again, right? Well, that's not the way it is. So most of the carriers have a pivot for traditional underwriting. Let's say your client has diabetes, heart issues, something that they're not going to get through the process streamlined. There's the ability to pivot to traditional underwriting at the carrier to keep the process moving. Now, they will, at that situation, start ordering an exam. There's no way to get around that. At the end of the day, if the client wants good underwriting and a good product, and they don't want what they call final expense, which is guaranteed issue, then they're going to have to go through traditional underwriting. It's just the way it is. The way it works is streamline underwriting for the healthy people. Anybody that's not, in that healthy category gets regular underwriting so that the client can, or the carrier can see under the hood a little bit more. And then if they're really sick, then they're going to guaranteed or simplified issue, where they're not really asking any medical questions. But remember, the premiums are a lot more expensive there. So anytime your client can get through underwriting, and, whether it's, analytically driven or traditional, they're going to be better off from an expense standpoint than they would be going to a final expense or a guaranteed issue product. So the second path is full underwriting. This may be something, maybe your client comes to you with a $5 million need. We'd all love that, right? $5 million. Well, guess what? You know where those policies are? Business owners. You as a property casualty agent, if you're not working with business owners, that is where the large policies are. You know, I used to say, when you get a checkbook as an individual, when you used to get checks, no one gets checks anymore, but I'm dating myself a little bit. But when you get checks and you get a checkbook for an individual account, the checks are really small, right? But why is it that when you get business checks and they give you the checks are really big? Well, I like to say that the business owners have the big checks. And their thought process on this is different. They see these policies as a business expense, not something that they may or may not need. It's something they have to protect their business. So if you have business owner clients, maybe they're coming to you for their personal needs, talk to them about their business. Ask them what they're doing about their business. How would they have liquidity if something happened to them? You know, maybe they have a concrete business. How is your wife going to run the concrete bit? Maybe she can. I don't know. Conversely, maybe there's a marketing agency that the female owns, and how is the husband going to run that? So there's lots of different conversations that you can have there to drive conversations around life insurance, partnerships, buy, sell. Again, reach out to your Sherpa, Josh Lipson. He'll be more than happy to take you to the top of the mountain. He's a whiz on those types of policies. He specializes in business owners. So again, full underwriting is the regular process. Usually happens above $2 million. That's where they order medical records, exams, fluids, and take a look more deeply into the client, because obviously the amount of risk to the insurance company is higher and the clients may or may not be as healthy. Okay. How do we get started? Well, we're going to take you through abgelite.com and talk to you a little bit about Basecamp really quickly here at the end of the presentation. In addition to that, I would tell you, if you haven't already completed your anti-money laundering, it is required by every carrier to have. You can go to LIMRA, LIMRA, just put it in the little Google machine and it'll come right up, and you can go on there and complete your anti-money laundering training for free. You'll need that to submit to the insurance company to show proof that you trained it. They give you a little certificate. And lastly, you have to complete the Alpine Brokerage online contracting if you haven't done that. That's an important piece, because if you're not contracted with us, we can't submit the business. And if we can't submit the business, your client can't get covered. And if your client can't get covered, you can't get paid. So very simple process there. We have an online contracting process. Once we send you the packet, you will never have to fill out another piece of paper again. In fact, if you're really tech savvy, you can go onto our website and you can request your own contracts. But if you don't want to do that and you want us to help you, we can send you links and you can click off on that and get contracted with any of the carriers that we have here at Alpine Brokerage.